I'm going to tell you a little story about the United States of America. So most of us were taught in school that the United States of America is a republic, and that the colonies fought their independence, and once they were independent, they became states, and the states came first. All right. It wasn't for a few years later that the United States even existed after the Revolutionary War, and the states got together as people. You know, states are people, at least in a republic form, got together and created the United States. And if you look at the Articles of Confederation, it says so. That the Articles of Confederation were the compact of states. It was the agreements of the states had how they were going to function together and what they were going to do for each other and protect each other. And in that agreement of all these several states, they then created the federal government, the United States. And then they created that with a constitution as a trust. They were creating a trust. The United States is a trust. And there's some more to talk about that, but let's fast forward a little bit to the Civil War. All right, so what happened in the Civil War is that the southern states left that group. They left that compact. Okay, the Articles of Confederation, they walked away from it. We were not in it anymore. They say they left the Union, but the Union is kind of another thing. So that compact, that agreement, that protection of the states when they left went away because it was no longer a team. They divided it. And so all that was left were these ununified states and the federal government, the United States. So you'll see, and you know, that during the Civil War, it was the United States versus the South. U.S. on their hats, right? I'm sure they may have been the militia from different states, but it was the United States that went after the southern states to bring them back into the fold. And if there was an Article of Confederation, if that compact still existed, they couldn't have done that. They wouldn't have had the authority. But since they left, that thing went away. The United States could literally do whatever they wanted because there was no authority over the United States anymore. That compact, that group, were gone. And so when the North won, some really fucked up things happened. Recognizing that the compact was pretty much gone. And also when they left, when the South left, they left D.C. So the representation that they had in D.C. as representatives and congressmen and whatever, they weren't there anymore. All those states, they weren't in D.C. So after the war was over, and they did not sign any type of treaty, they executed the 13th Amendment, making involuntary servitude illegal against the law. Then they also did the 14th Amendment. And that's the real curious one. That created a lot of things. Really ask anybody to read it. A lot of stuff in the first paragraph. The second paragraph, I would like to know what it says and why it's there. But during the Reconstruction, when they passed these amendments, they didn't have a full legislature. They hadn't let the southern states back in yet. So, per the Constitution, when you pass laws and you pass amendments to the Constitution, it's explained on what has to be there, and you have to have a full Congress. All the states have to be there, and they weren't. They just forced these, especially the 14th Amendment, they just forced it through. And not only did they not have full representation in D.C. for the 14th Amendment, the states that ratified it were not the Republican form from the Articles of Confederation. They were not the original republics. They were not the people. Okay? A republic form government, people equals the states. States equals the people. It references that in the Constitution. But after the war was over, the Reconstruction happened, okay? And the Reconstruction, it was a reconstruction of America. They replaced all these Republican form states. They put in states that looked just like it, but they were not created by the people. They were not executed by the people. They were created by Congress. They were created by the corporate derivative. And they looked just like the states. And they had the same names, they used the same buildings, the same, voted on the people in the same manner, and populated these governments. However, these governments were not Republican form. They are corporate form. They are civil law governments. They are governments of legal entities, okay? And so when you recognize, and if you understand the Constitution at all, and what was done there, if the states are no longer the people, and the states are no longer Republican form, and that they're just a commercial derivative, then people don't even exist anymore. We, the people, don't exist in the United States of America anymore. We participate as a legal entity. The 14th Amendment created a legal entity. It's all it can do. You can't force citizenship amongst people. You can't tell somebody in Washington State that they're now a citizen of the United States, or that they're a citizen in New York. Citizenship is consensual. But the 14th Amendment says all persons shall be citizens of the United States. All persons, okay? I'm not talking about people. And yes, people and persons are very different. Persons can be, and the fact that they can be is what's important. They can be a legal entity, like a LLC or a corporation. Anything fictitious made up by man for the sense of commerce. And so our government, ever since the Civil War, has been a total fraud. Our patriotism has been completely hijacked. We love our country and do all this stuff, and we're proud to be citizens of the United States, having no frickin' idea what it is. And so all the awful crap in America, or even in the world, that has happened, the idea that we have to ask for our rights, so they're not treating us well, is completely upside down. We don't have a common law court anymore. Common law is common to everybody, every man and woman. You hurt somebody, you get hurt, a common law court will address it. And that's why there's no statutes and there's no rules. Because it's all just, what was the situation? Let's fix it. It's fixed? Okay. We don't got to create case law after case law after case law. And in 1933, they took it up one step further, and they took our money away. They took our gold away. We're no longer people in this government, and we can't use gold anymore. We're a fake entity when we participate, and we use a fake entity when we are in commerce. All right, now what happened in 1933 is really awful. It's really, really awful. You have to go back to slavery to understand it. Now, towards the end of slavery, in the last 10, 15 years, 20 years, the southern states, through their state banks, figured out a way, or perfected a way, to use slaves, living people, slaves, as the security for money. Just like cattle, just like a crop that's coming in, just like land. You put up the security, then you get the paper to go do stuff with. Well, to be a landowner and have slaves, obviously that was a good thing, because you have somebody to do all the labor, right? You have slaves to do all the labor. You don't do anything. You haven't got to pay them anymore, right? That's a good thing. That's what we all thought slavery was just that, free labor. But it morphed. Once they securitized people, then just having a slave was the value. Not only could you do all this labor, but you had money in the vault just because you owned the slaves, just because they were there. They didn't have to do any work. You got cash. And so these tricky bankers, they were able to use one slave and get money over and over. And as long as more and more slaves were added, it was fine. But obviously, there was going to have to stop. At some point, they couldn't add slaves. And then the whole system would fall down. But they created an entire monetary system based off people who were completely clueless that they were the thing, that they were the security. So, in 1933, 1929, the bank crash. The story was that the people had too much gold and it was stifling commerce. And that makes sense, because when you give gold to a bank, they can loan out only so much money depending on how much gold they have. They can do it multiple times, but the gold was a limiting thing. So the story kind of pans out. It's totally bullshit, but to the average individual, we didn't know any better. And so the money that was returned, that was replaced, this fiat money, you believe it's backed by nothing. They can print it whenever they want. That's only half the story. The other story is that all that money comes from us as slaves, just by being in the system, just by being the citizens, by participating as legal entities and using the money. We create the value just by being here. The whole money system, all the money in the world is backed by the people, whatever country they're in. The people are the security. Not only are they the security, but they're also the consumer. So the end of this story, the understanding of what's happening is we have been totally enslaved. We believe in the story of freedom. We believe in the story of the 4th of July. We believe in the story of patriotism. We watch the movies about patriotism. We watch the movies about people fighting for justice and freedom. It's all stories. We are not free. We have been enslaved. And it's all through psychological tricks and lies and brainwashing. And now that things are changing, people need to know the truth. We need to know the truth. We can stand up and say no, that we do not consent, that we do not agree to any of this. We got to, reform the republics. We got to create our own governments that are governments of people. And the easy thing is they're not much different from the construct at the beginning. It's just who participates. Okay, you take the state governments we have now and you let the people pick, the people of the state, not some citizen of the United States. You let people of that state decide who's going to hold that office. And the people holding the office are citizens of the state, are people, not citizens of the United States, not some legal entity. And then those people are actually accountable to the rest of the people, the actual people. Now, those citizens that hold those offices are only accountable to the damn rules on the paper. The statutes. Read their oaths. They swore to support the paper. They have no contract with you. None of them do. No cop, no lawyer, no judge, no legislator. None of them have any contractual obligation to you, to protect you, or to protect your rights. It's all assumed. They've created another entity. This other legal entity with your name on it. Your birth certificate is the name of another entity that has the exact same name as you. So when these liars, these courts ask you who you are, understanding that they can only see legal entities, that's it. There is a legal entity out there with your name. And so when you're in this court, you're in this little box, and they've said, hey, this legal entity needs to be here. And you walk in there and they say, are you so-and-so? And you say, yes, I am. Their messed up world says, okay, well then you're responsible for this legal entity. You the man, you the woman, you don't even exist in here. I only see legal entities. That's how these courts work. That's how these state courts work. That's why you walk in there and things can get completely turned upside down and make no damn sense. And they treat you like as if you don't even exist. Because in that court, you do not. In civil law courts, you do not exist as men and women. Only common law courts can see men and women. Because men and women operate the court, operate a common law court. In a common law court, the judge is just an officiant. Each side makes their case, and then the people decide. The jury decides guilty, not guilty, give the stuff back, don't give the stuff back, hang them, don't hang them. It's all amongst the people in the community, not some rules in some big shiny building. Okay, so this whole system is not for us. It is not for people. And the good news is we do not have to start a war. We don't have to fight anybody. We just have to be honest and see the truth and stand up. And stop letting people lie to us. Stop letting people steal our consent. Trick us, okay? And it's important to know that this whole system is just not for people. That's the backbone of it. I can talk to you of why and how and what they do, and we do. We talk about it on Zooms all the time. But if you can't see that, it's an uphill fight. But once you see it, it's just a commercial legal trick. It is not for people, and you can't find a statute that tells me people are in these governments. They try to protect the people. They do stuff that's even worse than that. Okay, so when you pass legislation, when the people vote on something, and a statute changes, or they add a statute, or even the Constitution changes, per rule, per the Constitution of the state of Colorado, whenever the citizens, the legal entities, vote on something, it has to be titled that the people decided, in title only. Okay. If you get sued, if you get prosecuted for a crime by the state, the plaintiff is the people of the state of Colorado. That is per rule. Their rule says that the prosecutions have to be titled by that, because in reality, it's just the state of Colorado, a corporation, suing your person. Two legal entities going after it. You're not even party to it. You're not even part of it. But they trick you into it. You want to believe that since that court case says the people of the state of Colorado, that this is a government of the people, that we participate in it, and therefore it's us, and that's how it's right. But it's a fraud. It is a trick. So if you want to know what you can do, you need to get out of the system. You need to stop voting. Unregistered to vote. I don't give a shit how important you think it is that Trump wins. The whole thing is a deck of cards. A house of cards, excuse me. Okay, the real fraud, the real problem is handling it at the state level, where we are. We're not in D.C. We're not in White House. We're in the state. This is where we live. This is where we do our stuff. This is where we need to feel free and protected by the government of us. And we don't have that. And that's what matters. Not who the F you're going to vote for. It's all theater, okay? There's substance and there's form. There's truth and there's story of truth. Now, for all you guys that think Trump's the savior, he's a showman. If he's doing good, then God bless him, but he ain't helping us. He's just telling another story. And when you participate in the story, you're fucked. And that's why you got to register to vote. Create an entity that you control. Your person is controlled by them. Create your own entity. Create a private express trust and be the people and be a trustee. You handle all your affairs. Nothing happens to you and your stuff without your consent. You are the master of your stuff. As a person, as your normal entity, you make damn sure you follow the rules. You make damn sure they don't come and take your stuff because you made them upset. That's the world we live in. That's statutory law. That's rule law. That's the law of man. You follow man's law, you have no protection. Follow your law, you follow God's law, you follow natural law. You have protection. So this is it. Thank you very, very much for your time.